Today I have all of the hiking, search and rescue stories that happened in New Hampshire during the month of May. Now there are some stories with a good outcome, pretty simple rescues. Hikers were able to hike out on their own. They were pretty close to the trailhead. They didn't end up too injured, but the last story I'm going to get to is a little more intense. It involves a helicopter rescue to a very remote location in the Pemigewasset Wilderness. So I'm going to get through all of the rescues from the whole month. And yes, we are in a new location. I am filming outside of my daughter's playhouse today. So on May 6th, there was a hiker who had hiked Mount Monadnock, and she successfully hiked to the summit and was on her way back down on the White Dot Trail when very heavy fog suddenly rolled in and made this hiker very disoriented. She could no longer really see the trail or see where she was. So she called for help at around 9 o'clock at night, and a rescue team got together and started hiking up the White Dot Trail to try to locate her. At the time she called for help, she was about a mile away from the trailhead, but after she called for help, the weather did slightly begin to improve, so she was able to continue hiking down the trail while rescuers were hiking up to try to locate her. They did meet up with each other relatively very quickly. They all safely got back to the trailhead at around 10:45 at night, and this hiker was able to hike out on her own and also didn't need any medical attention. At first, I will admit, I thought this rescue was a case of the hiker not being prepared, hiking too late into the night and not having a light source, but as I read this press release, I was very wrong. She was prepared. She did anticipate this hike going into the night. She just did not anticipate the low visibility and just not being able to see anything out there. On May 11th at 9 a.m., 3 hikers set out to hike the Franconia Ridge Loop. 9 hours into their hike at 9 p.m., they were still 2 miles away from the trailhead, and it got dark and they did not have light sources on them. They could not see the trail anymore. The temperatures were dropping very quickly. At this point, it was in the low 20s. And they were just not prepared. Couldn't see the trail, couldn't get back to the parking lot. They called for help at around 9:10 p.m. and a rescue team was formed and started hiking the 2 miles into the trail to find these hikers. They did locate them, gave them light sources, and assisted them back to the parking lot where they all got there safely at 2 o'clock in the morning. Real quick, I just want to thank Element for sponsoring this video and making these hiking search and rescue videos possible. Element is a sugar-free electrolyte drink mix that comes in this single serving packet, and it has a science-backed ratio of electrolytes inside. It has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium, and all these ingredients work perfectly together to give you the best hydration. I am taking hydration very seriously right now, especially knowing that I have to give birth in a couple weeks. So this water bottle full of Element does not leave my side every day. I know when I'm not getting enough electrolytes in because my biggest symptom for being dehydrated is muscle cramps, and my leg cramps will literally wake me up in the middle of the night. So I am just drinking as much as I can right now, and I will continue after I give birth because it's going to be so important postpartum as well. Element is not only an amazing electrolyte drink mix because of the ingredients, but it's amazing because every single flavor that Element makes tastes so good. If you want to check them out for yourself, head to drinkelement.com/Nahamsha. When you use that link, which is also in the description of this video, you'll get a free sample pack thrown in with any purchase. And this sample pack is going to have 8 sticks of Element in their most popular flavors. Again, that's drinklmnt.com/Nahamsha. On May 21st, there was a hiker on the Lonesome Lake Trail in Lincoln, New Hampshire, who called for help at around 6 p.m. because she had fallen, suffered a leg injury, and could no longer hike out on her own. A rescue team was formed and they met at the Lafayette Place campground, where other hikers in the area did confirm that this hiker was injured about half a mile up on the Lonesome Lake Trail. The Pemi Valley Search and Rescue Team started up the trail with a rescue litter. They made contact with the hiker, put her in the litter, and carried her back to the parking lot. There was an ambulance waiting for her, but she did take a private vehicle to the nearby hospital. On May 26, there was a father and his 2 sons hiking on the Bolles Trail in Albany, New Hampshire. This is near Mount Chocorua. When they were about 4 miles away from the trailhead, this group decided to split up. I don't know the reason, but the sons continued on and they were separated from their father. The sons made it back to the trailhead first, but the father was still on the trail and no one had cell phone service, so they couldn't make contact with each other. After the sons got to the parking lot, they waited for several hours for their dad to show up, and he never did. So they were able to get a 911 text sent out to explain the situation. Conway Fire and Rescue responded to the boys, met them there, and treated the boys for dehydration. Meanwhile, Lakes Region Search and Rescue responded to look for the dad. They started hiking in the trail, and they did make contact with him about half a mile into the hike and assisted him back to the trail. He was not injured. He was able to hike out on his own, and they got back to the trailhead at around 12:30 in the morning. People in the comments for this rescue story were definitely a little upset that this group even decided to split up in the first place. We don't know the reason. I don't know how old the boys were, but we know the dad was 64 years old. And a good rule of thumb that people were saying is that if you start a hike together, you should end the hike together. This last story that happened in May is probably the biggest one from the whole month. And like I said, it involves the New Hampshire National Guard Black Hawk helicopter doing a rescue in the middle of the Pemigewasset Wilderness. A solo hiker had stayed the night at the Gio shelter, and on his way out in the morning, he had slipped and fell while descending a steep section of trail. He suffered an injury which prevented him from hiking and walking out on his own. He sent a text out to 911 to explain the situation. GPS coordinates put him 7.5 miles away from the nearest road. He was smack dab in the middle of the Pemigewasset Wilderness. Because of his location, a carryout would have been a very strenuous task, so the New Hampshire National Guard was contacted to help via helicopter extraction. The initial call for help from the hiker came in at 11:53 in the morning. By 1 o'clock, the helicopter departed Concord and made its way to the Pemi Wilderness. And by 1:30, the helicopter spotted the injured hiker in the woods. 2 rescuers were lowered from the helicopter to assist getting this hiker into a location without tree cover. It was a short distance away, but they got this hiker into an area where they could all safely be hoisted back into the helicopter. By 2:50, everyone was safely back in the helicopter and they were on their way to Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center. This hiker was prepared for this hike. It was just a crazy, unpredictable fall that occurred. And that's going to be all of the New Hampshire hiking search and rescue stories that happened during the month of May. All in all, I feel like it was a good month. These hikers were able to get rescued pretty quickly. We had a couple lower leg injuries, but nothing too bad happened. So I feel like it was a good month. I hope everyone has a great month of June and hikes safe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.